Hi guys, welcome back to the Avocado Toast Budget. Today we are doing the third episode in our Budget For Me series. So if you enjoy these videos, if you want to learn more about saving, paying off debt, investing, and how to feel confident with your money, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. You can also push that notification bell to make sure that you are notified every single time that we upload. And don't forget to please hit that like button. It really boosts us up in the YouTube algorithm and helps this video reach the top. So if you want to see me create my subscribers' budget from scratch, go ahead and keep watching. So Cheyenne is a mom of 3 and currently she does live with her partner, but they split all of their expenses evenly. So their expenses are theirs and then her expenses are hers. They're also very excited because right now they are planning to save for a wedding. The wedding is going to be smaller, but the reception is going to be bigger. And then they are also hoping that they will have the chance to have another baby as well. So that is something that they want to save for. On top of all of this, Cheyenne is also the main caretaker for her mother, who has some health complications, so she also has to pay for that as well, and that is something that she is wanting to make sure that she has money for. Some of Cheyenne's goals are that she wants a larger vehicle. I mean, she has a big family, she is hoping to expand her family one day as well, so that is something that is on the top of her list. Also, she has the chance of maybe purchasing her family farm, so that is also in her long-term goals as well. A few years ago, Cheyenne had to start back from ground zero. So she built herself up from not having any money at that point. So she used to have an emergency fund and used to have a little bit of a cushion in her budget, but lately she has just found herself living paycheck to paycheck. And since she may have to remodel her family farm here soon, that is also something that we want to keep in mind whenever we are looking at her budget. So right now, Cheyenne's top priority is saving. She has a bunch of big savings goals that we need to start working toward and need to make sure that she has the cash to be able to fund them. On top of that, she also has some credit card debt and medical debt that she wants to take care of. And then of course, she has 3 boys, she has a wedding coming up, so she's gonna need to prioritize spending as well. And then last on her list is investing. So here's the rundown of Cheyenne's budget. She has 5 main types of debt. Right now she has 2 credit cards, a student loan debt, a car loan, and then she has multiple medical loans. In the email that she sent me, she has over $16,000 in medical loans, but part of that is pending with insurance. So I went ahead and just added up all of those, taking out the part that insurance owes, and we are going to go with this amount for right now. If that changes in the future, if for some reason insurance doesn't cover part of it, or if it covers more than that, then Cheyenne can adjust her budget accordingly. My guess is that her medical debt probably doesn't have any interest to it. She didn't say, but generally speaking, medical debt doesn't come with interest, so we're just going to assume that that is a 0% interest rate as well. And then she also has a car loan that is 0% interest rate. It is a higher debt, but because there's no interest on it, I think that's awesome. Cheyenne has 2 forms of income right now. One of them is weekly child support. For that, she gets about $1,200 every month. The other is from her job. She's paid bi-weekly, but monthly that comes out to be about $1,300. And then here are Cheyenne's fixed expenses. For rent, she pays $365. She has an Amazon Prime and Amazon Music membership, her phone bill, and then her car payment as well. We are going to tackle her credit cards a little bit differently in her budget, so I didn't put those down here with her fixed expenses, but we will accommodate for those $30 payments as well in her budget later on. For variable expenses, Cheyenne went ahead and estimated that she spends anywhere between $600 to $800 on groceries, about $100 on gas, $250 to $300 for eating out. She gives herself about $100 for fun money, and then we gave her a buffer of about $50 to $100 for miscellaneous. So that is Cheyenne's snapshot. Let's go ahead and get into forming her budget. Okay, so in order to set up Cheyenne's budget with YNAB, we are going to go ahead and go to youneedabudget.com, click login, and then she would create an account, but I already have an account. So as soon as we log in, it's gonna bring me to my budget. We're gonna come over here to the drop-down menu and hit new budget. We will call it Cheyenne's budget, and everything else we're gonna leave the same. So once her budget is created in YNAB, YNAB has these pre-selected categories and category groups for you. You can go ahead and change any of these. A lot of these I'm gonna go ahead and change around to kind of how I usually tend to set up people's budgets, but this gives you an idea, if you have no idea where to start, about some of the things that you might need to include in your budget. So the first thing that we wanna do in YNAB is go ahead and set up our checking and savings accounts. So since I am not Cheyenne, this is going to be an unlinked account. The first one we're going to put in is her checking. We will just name it checking. And the last time I checked in with her, she had about $550 in here, so we're just going to go ahead and estimate. But if you are looking at your bank account, you can go ahead and put the exact amount in to make your budget as detailed as possible. We're going to go ahead and add another account, another unlinked account, savings, and she has about, between her two savings, $2,700. So then we're going to click done. This is going to show up over here, and it's going to show that we have about $3,200 to put toward our money in our budget. So the next step is to set up our budget categories. I am going to rename immediate obligations to fixed expenses. She does have rent. This will change to Amazon Prime, Amazon Music. Then she has two more fixed expenses. One is her phone bill and one is her car. So we're going to go ahead and delete these. The next ones that I'm going to do are her variable expenses. These are groceries, gas, eating out, fun money, and miscellaneous. Then we can go through and delete the rest of these. We're going to do her credit cards a little bit differently, and then she doesn't have any other debt payments right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete this category. I'm going to delete this one, and then I'm going to change this one to sinking funds. Sinking funds are all of her non-monthly expenses. So this is where we're going to put things like a wedding fund, home renovations, money toward her medical debt, a car fund, and then I also want her to have a bigger sinking fund for just fun money, whether that is a vacation or something that she wants to spend on with her family to enjoy. We'll also put a baby fund in here. So this is how Cheyenne's budget is going to be set up. Now we are going to go ahead and add in her credit cards. Since this is an unlinked account, we are actually going to go down this time and hit credit card. We're going to name this credit card number 1, and her current balance on that is $495. We don't know if she has the money to cover this in full for right now, so we're just going to go ahead and create a goal to pay off this credit card over time. So Cheyenne has two options. She could either click to pay off a balance by a specific date or to pay a specific amount every month until her balance is paid off. So for example, right now her minimum payment on that is $30. This is showing Cheyenne that if she continues to pay $30, it's going to take her 17 months to pay off this balance. This is not including the interest rate. Since Cheyenne currently budgets the $30 minimum payment a month, that's what we're going to do here, and then I'll show you what we'll do with her interest. And then we're going to go through before we tackle the interest and add another account since she does have another credit card. That current balance is $260.49. And again, her minimum payment is $30, so we're going to leave that as is, and then I'll show you what we can do. As I was thinking about it, there are a couple more sinking funds that I want to add here. She mentioned that she doesn't have an emergency fund, so I definitely would like to add that to our list. And then also, I forgot that right now she is not paying on her student loans, but that is still a balance that she has. So we are going to add a student loan sinking fund. She can pull that into a debt payment whenever that is due. So now this is our official budget with YNAB. We just have to go through and start setting goals and start giving all of this money up here a job. So one of the best things that I love about YNAB is how they set up their goals. So we are going to go through, click on each fixed expense, come over here and click create a goal for it. The goal amount is going to be the amount that she owes every single month. So for rent, we know that that is $365. We're going to leave all of this the same and then click save goal. This now is going to show us until she puts $365 in this category, she needs more money put toward her budget to be able to pay this off. I'm going to go through and do that with the rest of her fixed expenses. For our variable expenses, we're going to do something very similar, but this is where we're going to use those estimated amounts. So I'm going to go ahead and estimate on the high end of things because generally speaking, when we haven't budgeted before, we'll probably end up spending more than we think that we will. So I'm going to go on the high end of Cheyenne's estimates. So the best part about setting up goals is that now we can see where we are at in our budget. So if we come over here and click this and then click it again, this is going to highlight all of Cheyenne's categories. We haven't set any goals for our sinking funds yet because I wanted us to be able to see a good look at where Cheyenne is with her finances. So if we come over here and look at underfunded, we can see that in order to fund all of Cheyenne's necessary expenses, which include her credit card payments, her fixed expenses, and her variable expenses, that is going to be $2,548.98. This is a really good thing because if we look at her to be budgeted, which is a reflection of what is in her checking and her savings account, she has enough to cover all of that. So she is already in the green for the month. So in order to start giving every single dollar a job, the first thing that I'm going to do is have all of these highlighted, come over here and click the underfunded button. That brings that $2,500 from up here and splits it into our goals for our categories. This makes budgeting so easy, and it gives us a look at how much Cheyenne has even before she gets paid to put toward her other goals. So currently she has around $700. This is where we have to really start looking at what Cheyenne's priorities are. So her number one goal is her savings goals. Then we're looking at debt payoff. So we know the majority of this money Cheyenne is probably going to want to put towards savings. So coming down here, Cheyenne can look and say, what do I want this money to do for me right now? Since all of my other expenses are covered for the month, what can this money do for me to help me reach my goals? Considering Cheyenne has a lot of upcoming expenses and she has 3 kids, I think it's really important for her to have some sort of an emergency fund. It is awesome because right now she does have enough money to be ahead in her expenses, which does give her a buffer, but I also think that she needs to have some money in an emergency fund just in case. So for this budget's sake, I'm going to go ahead and allocate $500 toward an emergency fund. And you can see it took that money from up here, which leaves us with about $200. From there, we can start splitting this money up. We can put $50 toward a wedding fund, $50 toward a baby fund, $25 towards home renovations, $50 towards a car fund, which leaves us with about $26 that she can throw either more towards savings or if she wanted to put some toward her debt. I would highly recommend if she is looking to tackle debt, the first thing that she does is pays off these credit cards. So currently her credit card number 1 has an interest rate of 24.49% and her credit card number 2 has an interest rate of 23.99%. So both of those very close, very high interest rates. So I think that it's important for her to start tackling this debt as well. That way she has more money to put toward her goals. So in this case, we can go ahead and add $2602 toward her credit card. This is one of those ways that you can start nipping at the interest rate on your credit cards. Another option for Cheyenne would be if she knows exactly how much her interest is every month. She can go ahead and add a category group titled interest, add some categories for interest for credit card number 1 and interest for credit card number 2. So let's say just for this that we know her interest rate every month is about $20 for each card. Again, we could do the math on this, but I'm really bad at that kind of math. So she can just go on her credit card statements and look at exactly how much that is. That way, her credit card interest rate is separate from the payments that she is making on her credit card. So if she knows that every single month she is paying $20 on one card for interest and $20 for another card, we can reorder those so that credit card number 1 is up here and credit card number 2 is down here. And then suddenly we have created goals for that interest rate. So instead, if we want to go ahead and take out $40 from somewhere in her savings, we can go ahead and take it out of our emergency fund. Since we are backtracking to look at it a different way, this $40 can then go toward the interest on her credit card. So this $56 and this $30 are payments toward the principal on her credit card, which is going to really help her to start knocking off some of that debt. So she knows that she has her interest covered every single month, and then anything she's putting in this credit card payment is just a bonus. It is going at that principal amount that we talked about at the beginning. This is an awesome way with YNAB if you have a bunch of debt with a bunch of different interest rates and you're really wanting to know how much am I paying in interest in every month, and therefore how much extra do I have to put at the principal amount on your debt. This is a really good way to break up your credit card payments, your debt payments, and your interest rates. So this is one example of what the money that Cheyenne currently has on hand can do for her. So let's go ahead and take a look at what it would look like when Cheyenne gets paid. Cheyenne gets paid at her job bi-weekly, and she gets paid for child support weekly. So I am just going to go ahead and do a bi-weekly budget and add together 2 weeks of child support and 1 paycheck. So child support for 2 weeks is going to go in the to be budgeted, and that is about $614. So we're gonna save that, we put that into her checking account, and then let's say on the same day that she gets this child support, she also gets paid for her job. Again, that's going to go in to be budgeted, and she gets paid about $668 each paycheck. So we're gonna go ahead and put that in the inflow, click save, come back to our budget, and then here is that money from 2 weeks of child support and 2 weeks of working. So now, since this is up here, we need to decide what we want this money to do for Cheyenne. Luckily, Cheyenne is already covered for the rest of November. So really, there are a few different things that she can do with this money. She can either start building up her sinking funds, she can put it toward debt, or she could go over and click toward December and start putting some of this money toward getting more ahead in her budget. This acts as a buffer, which also can act as a sort of an emergency fund for you if something were to happen and you were going to go without income for a while. YNAB really encourages you to try to get a month ahead in your expenses, so that is something that she wanted to do. So I will walk you through the different scenarios of what we could do with this $1,200. If Cheyenne wanted to get a month ahead in her expenses, she could go ahead and click on these categories to highlight them. But if we come here to the underfunded, we see that she needs about $2,500 to fund the month. Since she doesn't have that, we can start from some of the less important things, those things that don't absolutely have to get funded yet. So we know those are things like our sinking funds, even though we don't have any goals set up for those yet. Our miscellaneous, fun, and eating out categories are not necessities, so those are the things that can get funded later on. If we take a look here, that still leaves us with about $2,000 underfunded, and we only have about $1,200. So I would go and look and say, okay, what does it need to get paid? The next things I'm probably going to look at are going to be these fixed expenses that aren't necessities. So things like Amazon Prime and Amazon Music. We know rent is super important, groceries and gas are important, and we can go ahead and put off those credit card payments. If push came to shove, it's more important for her to have a roof over her family's head than to be paying off those credit cards. So again, if we look over here, we're still underfunded by about $700 compared to what she has up here. So what I would do in that scenario is I would actually unclick groceries and gas from here. That way we're only funding these fixed expenses. Here we can see we have enough money to do that. So we have enough money for her to fund rent, her phone payment, and her car payment in December. So if we click that, we can see that we still have $264 over. This is where we can start putting a little bit toward groceries and a little bit toward gas for the time being. So we can go ahead and put $200 toward groceries and then the remaining $64 toward gas. Again, this is just one way of doing your budget. This can apply to any of the categories that you want to put this money toward. But let's say Cheyenne doesn't really want to take this route of going and trying to get a month ahead in her expenses. She's really wanting to focus on paying off that debt and building up some of those savings goals. I went ahead and undid all of that in her budget, and instead we are going to focus still on November and decide what we want this $1,200 to do for her. Now, if this were me and I were Cheyenne, looking at her budget, she's in a really good place right now because she still is ahead in her expenses. Even if she isn't a full month ahead, she does have a lot of a buffer going on here. So because of that, because she has almost $500 in an emergency fund, she's paying a little bit more on her credit cards, she has all of her necessary expenses covered. If I were her, I would take this payment and put it toward this credit card. I would nip those out. If Cheyenne went ahead and we took the money out of our interest, because let's say Cheyenne has decided she just wants to pay off her credit cards with this extra money that she has, I'm going to bring all of the credit card payments back to zero. That way I can show you what Cheyenne would have left if today she just went through and paid off her credit cards. Okay, so if Cheyenne decided she wanted to put that extra money toward paying off her credit cards, $495 on one, $260.49 on another, that would get rid of those larger interest rates, and she still would have $652.53 to work with. Then, when we're coming over to December, we don't have to worry about any of these payments because it's already going to be paid off, which means that Cheyenne is going to have more money to work with to put toward her savings goals. So then, even paying off her credit card, she can go ahead and put some money toward these sinking funds. Things like her wedding fund, if she wants to go ahead and add a good chunk to that. With $300, this home renovation is going to be a big expense, so we can add another $300 to that. And then she has $52 to decide what she wants to put it toward. If she wants to put it toward her student loans, more toward an emergency fund, more toward her medical debt or her car fund, I'm just going to go ahead and put $52.53, the remaining balance, toward a car fund. You can move this around, do anything that works for you, but these are just a few different things that Cheyenne's money can do for her. Okay, everyone, that is Cheyenne's budget using YNAB. Thank you so much, Cheyenne, for sharing your story and for sharing your finances with us so that we can learn along with you. Leave a comment down below. Let me know if you have any questions, if you found anything helpful. Don't forget, if you want to learn more about saving, paying off debt, and investing, and how to finally feel confident with your money, to hit that subscribe button down below. Push that bell notification. That way you get notified every single time that I upload. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.